everyone. You're tuned into the Path Radio Spotlight, courtesy of thepathradio.com. I am your host, Guido Perino, and today's guest is someone whose fingerprints are all over the music you love, even if you didn't always know it. Stephen Chesney is a British-born, US-based guitarist, songwriter, and producer who spent years working both behind the scenes and on stage with some of the most respected names in rock and beyond. From scoring for major TV networks like Discovery and History Channel to collaborating with icons like Billy Sheehan, Ray Luzier, and Dizzy Reed, his range is as impressive as his instincts. Now, with his new project, Agents of Your Demise, Stephen steps fully into the spotlight, writing and producing a sound that's urgent, unfiltered, and unmistakably his. The debut single, Sick Existence, isn't just a track, it's a statement. And today, we're diving into how this project came together, what fuels his creative engine, and what listeners like you can expect. Stephen Chesney, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thanks for having me, man. That was probably the best introduction I've had anywhere ever. So I appreciate that.
I always say I'm auditioning. So if a band ever wants to hire me to do their intro someday, I'm open for hire. I work cheap, meals, things like that.
What's the line? You wanted the best, but they didn't fucking make it. That's the Guns N' Roses line, right? Can I say that word? Sorry, my bad.
Oh no. Now Canada, what are we gonna do, Canada? It's all good.
There goes my politeness for being English. I'm sorry about that.
You're gonna have trouble at the border now. That's it.
My apologies. I should have checked on that before before I said anything. But I was like, hey, time to quote Guns N' Roses. So there we go.
GNR, listen, talking about borders, you crossed the ocean blue from the United Kingdom, hence the accent. Sometime back in the in case somebody didn't catch on, sometime in the mid 2000s, you settled in Los Angeles. You've been rocking in the USA since. And hey, is there anything that you miss from back home that you might think of often?
You know, are we talking strictly musical or are we talking just in general?
Anything you like.
Cadbury chocolate.
Cadbury chocolate.
Yeah. If you can ask about England, of all the things I can say I miss the most, it's probably the chocolate of all things. But outside of that, I've become like fairly Americanized. So now the English thing is almost like a really useful gimmick because it's like if somebody hears the accent, then they at least kind of remember that. But I spent so much time getting settled here that I hadn't been back to England honestly for years, and I finally went back last year, and it was really strange having been gone as long as I had, and then going back. It's like holy crap, I forgot about half of this. This is like a whole bunch of my life. So yeah, I mean I miss it a lot. I guess probably more than I think consciously because I still watch a lot of English TV and everything. So I guess there is a lot I miss. I just it's so ingrained that it's subconscious level.
Okay, so tell me something. Is the Cadbury chocolate different there than here?
Oh yeah. Here it's and it's sad that I know this. Um Here it's made at the Hershey factory in Pennsylvania. So
Right.
it's basically just Hershey American chocolate. It's not Cadbury at all.
I
So
see.
it tastes completely different, different texture, different everything about it is completely different. So unless you get it from like an English like import store, you're not actually having Cadbury chocolate.
You know now I'm gonna go on like a mission to find real Cadbury
I
chocolate.
I can give you the best types of chocolate to get because when I was there last year, uh, I, I I came back with so many like full size bars of chocolate. Like I mean, legitimately, I had to take stuff out of my suitcase when I came back and left it at my dad's house in England because I put so much weight of chocolate in there. So I can hook you up with the best stuff to get.
That's right on. I'm gonna do that. And the accent, like I the best I can do is, because of the kids, Harry Potter accent, but
Hey,
I try.
I'm glad you can still hear my accent. You know how many people tell me I sound American? I'm like, have you met an American before? I don't think
Wow.
I do, but I guess it depends who you ask.
All right, man. Look at chocolate and music because you said, well, does it have to be anything? Can it be something different? But let's go with music. So, after you do the move, right, and you're continuing to do your music,
Yeah.
Do you think your transatlantic background has shaped your approach to songwriting guitar work at all? Or do you feel that, your sound now blends from those influences, or does it defy it?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I mean, I know that's such a committed answer, but the thing is, I'm into English bands that I grew up with, like Thunder and the Little Angels, and bands from the early '90s that were really, really, really good. That weren't really as well known in the US and Canada, as far as I'm aware. And I think in the US, like Thunder was only known for like their big power ballad, whereas like they had such a good, like just hard rock catalog. So I got a lot from bands like those guys, but also I'm a massive Oasis fan, which doesn't necessarily go along with what people think of like playing like I don't want to say Steve Vai stuff to sound anything like Steve, but along those like over the top type, solos and stuff like that, which you don't get in something like Oasis. But because of when I was living there and growing up and Britpop and everything, I was a huge Oasis fan, and I got a lot of my like how I liked to structure a song from the way Noel wrote stuff and the chord progressions and some of the just this simple arpeggio stuff he would do with like A minor C to G. Just there's certain things that he did that I took and put into a different style of music. So there's the funny thing is you could probably show 100 people and 99 of them would never hear any of their stuff in it, but I can sit and point out exactly where I was influenced by this and this in a way that you would never guess those songs were in any way like related to the kind of music I play. So I think my background does have something to do with it, and it kind of all meshed into whatever the hell it is I'm doing now.
That's going to be the name of a track. Look, whatever the hell it is I'm doing now. Another
As
idea.
a follow-up
Um,
record, yeah.
uh, so just on that note, because you mentioned Oasis and others, you've collaborated with various legends across the rock world, Billy Sheehan, Ray Luzier, Dizzy Reed. But now, as you embark on this adventure called Agents of Your Demise, you're not just the guitarist now, you're the writer and you're the producer. Um, Now, is there any kind of pressure or is there a freedom that came with being the architect of the sound?
Both. Um, the the pressure was mostly put on me by myself, because you know you get to a point where you are a peer. Excuse me, managed to turn my microphone off there. You're a peer with the guys, and you get to know them and everything else. But at the same time, um, I'm always going to be a fan of them, and these are guys that helped influence what I'm doing in the first place. I'm just happening to do it with them now. So it's kind of this strange sort of this like mental circus going on in my head to where I'm like, I have to figure out how I can put something together that obviously I'm happy with, but that if a first time listener hears it, that's a fan of anything the other guys have done, you know, that these songs can go in their catalogs as well, and it not be a case of, well, there's all these amazing records and then there's these ones, and they're clearly not in the same level as as these others. And so I had that pressure on myself. Those guys didn't say anything like that to me. They didn't put that pressure on me, but that was in my head all the time, is I have to make sure I do something that they're proud of having been on as well, and worked with, and been part of this whole project. So I didn't realize, I think, the freedom I had with it until it was in retrospect. Now I can look and go, wow, I did exactly what I wanted. I was able to do whatever I wanted to do. But because I was thinking so much during the process of it, I definitely didn't necessarily realize it or enjoy that freedom as much, even though I was actually doing so. It just didn't always feel like it because I was overthinking a lot. um, but at the same time, it was the freedom that gave me the opportunity to overthink. So, it all kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, you're stepping into the light, right? Like after, and you said retrospect. In the
Yeah.
moment, maybe not, but then afterwards, you kind of spread your wings a little, and the next time you're doing it, you're going, and you said the word amongst my peers, right? And that's the freedom
Yeah.
amongst my peers. Once you figure that out, or once you have that feeling, look, having worked behind the scenes for so many top tier artists and the television projects, this feels like a personal spotlight moment for you. Is there something that, made this the right time to step into the light, or to step forward with Agents of Your Demise?
Um, in terms of when it's being released or this whole thing coming together.
Coming together, the timing for yourself. Yeah.
Well, I would love to say something romantic in terms of the timing for when it came together, but the reality is, it was thanks to like knowing these guys and having wanted to do something with them for years, and us all having talked about it. COVID happened, and it made it possible for everybody to actually make it happen. We had started, all of us, at various points, like 2017. I was about to go into the studio with Greg Bissonette on drums and with Billy, to do what is now the lead song on this record, Hat on a Hat. Um, I had that back then, and it was going to happen, and that didn't happen at the very last second. And so we had nearly managed to record a few times, and it just, due to circumstances and schedules and everything, it never came to pass. So when COVID happened, I'd been touring and I had like a year's worth of shows already booked. And then all of a sudden I have nothing to do. And so after after a couple of months, and after lockdowns had ended a little bit and people are at least starting to be able to move around, I got hold of Eric, because Eric's a very, very good friend of mine. And like, man, do you want to finally do something like recorded? Because I've played with Eric a lot, and it was like, we've got time now, right? It's like, yeah, yeah, let's do it. So I like, this is my chance to ask if Billy, is available. So I contacted Billy, and he was like, yeah, absolutely. So I had a drum track done, um, for a record that did not come out, that I was telling you about earlier. Um, and the drum track was done by a guy called Chris Reeve, who's the drummer for Avril Lavigne now, which is a completely different world. And so we did a version of "Nothing's Made to Last," which was the first single, with the original drum track, and it went really well. And I was like, "Do you want to do another one?" And they were like, "Yeah, okay, let's do another one." So this one, the next song, which was Hat on a Hat, I didn't have anything recorded for, and I'm like, this was my like love song to Hot for Teacher and Addicted to That Rush and Shy Boy. This was like my ode to those songs. I need to see if Ray will like do this, if Ray's available. So I contacted Ray. Hey man, you got some time now? Yeah. So we did that song, and the musicianship from those guys was completely insane. So I was like, all right, you want to keep going? So everyone agreed. And so we went back and we did Nothing's Made to Last. We redid that with Ray on drums, and we redid that tune. And then we proceeded from there. So the good that came from COVID was that this became, a possibility. And obviously now we're, more than a few years removed from it, but it was, there's been like, I've had health issues and stuff over like in between there that pushed things along and made things go a lot longer than I wanted to. So it was unfortunate events that made something good happen from it. And now uh, the the cute answer is it's the right time to put it out. The real answer is it's about time I put it out. So, that's the long answer.
No, man, listen, and here's the thing. It's amazing. All the unfortunate things about COVID and the pandemic. It's amazing what that did for music and for some musicians and for some opportunities like
Yeah,
this. Something amazing, has come out of it and is about to come out
yeah,
of it with your project, Agents of Your Demise. Look, a rose by any other name is still a rose, and yet we're still interested in a name. So, tell us about Agents of Your Demise. It feels almost cinematic. Is there a broader narrative, a visual world that you're building with this project? Is it about raw energy? Is it about mood? What is the rose in Agents of Your Demise?
well, every song on the album is a message to somebody. So within that title, so within the band name, same thing. And it's actually, however, taken from a line in the fourth song on the record. And Eric wrote the lyrics to Raise Hell or Die. I think that's the song that lyrically was all Eric's. And I'm listening to this verse, and it said, "I'll be the agent of your demise." It's like, man, that's a really cool name. Do I want to call an album that? Like, what do I do? And I'm a huge Guns N' Roses nerd, and Use Your Illusion was taken from Locomotive. You can use your illusion, let it take you where it may. Like, I always wanted to do something like that. So I'm like, Eric, I don't know if it counts as stealing, seeing as it's our song, but do you mind if I steal that and make that the band name? He was like, yeah, man, absolutely. That's cool. So it actually comes from a line in one of the songs on the record, and I just thought it was. I, I I think it conjures up cool images, and I grew up, you know, listening to bands with cool band names, and like that had like some sort of either anger or mystery or power or something in the name, and so it sounds much cooler than having my name on the record. It's like that's whatever, but it's like yeah, I wanted to really like put together like an image of what this is, so I felt like that really fit really well.
Yeah, everything was roses while we held on to our guns. Eh? No, I love it. I love the embedded. I love when that happens. You pull out the embedded name out of a song. There's always I always feel like there's more of a connection whenever that happens. And if you're able to do it, why not? Um,
Yeah.
you've talked about some names. You've assembled a bit of a powerhouse lineup here. Not a bit. You've assembled a powerhouse lineup. You've got yourself, Eric Dover, who's played Slash's Snakepit Jellyfish on vocals. You've got Billy Sheehan, Mr. Big, Winery Dogs, um, on bass. You've got Korn drummer Ray Luzier. I've mentioned his name a few times, and of course Dizzy Reed of Guns N' Roses on piano and strings. Just an amazing lineup. Is there a like as you're bringing these folks together? Because sometimes you get like great players in their own right doing great things with these other groups, but you bring them together. When's the moment that you went, yeah, this is gonna work? I got something special here with this group.
The moment they said yes.
No,
Oh,
no doubt after that. It's like I'm gonna make it work no matter what.
no, I'm like honestly, I think it's um, because I don't want to make it sound like I'm unaware of it. I think it's very difficult to sound bad when you have these guys involved in anything. But at the same time, I will say like when I heard my songs being taken by these guys and what they did with it, and the fact that they were able to complement it, put completely their style on it, to where it then pushed me to go back and redo things, to be more creative with my own stuff, to push me to do things that I wouldn't have thought about if not, but still fit the song the way that I wanted them to sound and the way I'd written them. I was like, oh, this is this is perfect. Like, because there was no case of getting anything and going, yeah, it's amazing, but it's not what I had, it's not what I imagined, but I'm gonna, I'm gonna run with it. But there was never anything like that. It was a case of this, this is great. They can hear what I want them to do and expand on that, and then it pushes me to do the same. So it was so natural. It just then pushed into what I said before, which was then it became the pressure on me because I was like, I got to make sure I can match what they're doing because these guys are making this so easy. So
Yeah, and I
it
mean,
was real natural.
you always like there's an initial worry, right? Because you think I've got this great guy here, this great guy here, this great guy here, and you bring them together, and individually they could play great, but then how do they sound together? And they're sounding, you guys are sounding amazing together. So,
I'm glad you think so.
kind of a moot question, but it is the reality. Look, one of your songs, the new single that you put together, "Sick Existence." The song hits hard both musically, thematically. Is there an emotional or personal trigger that gives birth to this track? Is there a message? And you said earlier, every song's a message to somebody, that you were hoping to leave embedded in all of this chaos with this song?
Uh, if I say no, that will say more than if I say anything else. So, it's one of those songs to where some messages are for the people that need to hear them. But outside of that, it's just, I think it reflects how a lot of us feel about how we're being treated these days by just about everybody. And it's the old thing of putting all of that anger and everything else into a song and getting it out. And LA will do that to you. You'll end up a little angry at points, and you can either take that in a good direction or not. And the funny thing about that song was it became that, and but it didn't start out that way. Originally, it was uh, I'd written all of the music and put that together for myself and Michael Starr from Steel Panther, and it was called Broken Bones. Completely different song, except for the music. And so because we'd been demoing some stuff, and then when we didn't like, put together a whole thing, I had that song like laying around like in one form or fashion for a long time. In fact, the guitar riff from that is I think it's on some Animal Planet show in the background somewhere that you again you would never know anything about it being me or anything else. I think it's on like Pit Bulls and Parolees on Animal Planet. And so there's like there's been versions of this hidden away and stuff for a long time, but then it finally turned into this now, just over the last little while. So once we had the music down, I had a pretty good idea of what the lyrics were going to be, and then I gave it to Eric, and he expanded on what I'd written. And I think it gets a point across, and that point can be a different point for different people. So yeah, and it sounds non-committal, but it's actually it's not.
It's a sick existence, I'm telling you, it is. Um, Look, man, you wrote and produced the single yourself. Is there something that you did with this song, Sick Existence, that you say gives it its signature edge? A trick, a tone, something you obsessed over it? Um,
You know, I just I had that in so many different forms for so long that I I knew exactly what it had to be when I was able to finally do, what I wanted with it. And so I stacked a hell of a lot of guitars on top of each other to make those things sound as big as they did. And so I think a lot of it comes from like in terms of production, um, the way that the guitars were tracked, because I think each rhythm track was nothing too crazy there. I double tracked one speaker, double tracked another, so there's four different tracks running. But then I did another four tracks in the choruses, so you had eight guitars and getting those super tight and not starting to sound, kind of all over the place and everything else was fun. It did a lot. The process of this did a lot to improve my own musicianship, because I was like, the stuff I'm wanting to do, I better make sure I get this right. If not, it's not going to sound clean at all. So just, I think, the approach and the way things were recorded, and knowing exactly, having had demos of it in different forms, it was just, I was so ready to do that song when the time came, that that was the one that was very natural. And man, those guys played so amazingly on that song, that it's just everything came together really well on it.
So let me ask, and you're talking about the tracks, and if I can, Dizzy Reed has the piano and strings on there, and there's this sort of unexpected haunting quality about it. Was that part of your vision, or was that something that kind of got added on just from Dizzy?
The stuff with Dizzy, I'd already had stuff with uh, like demo piano that either I'd done or friends had done previously. Um, and so they pretty much were what I wanted them to be, because of the fact that I told people that had played on them, play like Dizzy Reed. So when I had actually, at this point, got to know Dizzy years later on, and it comes down to getting him on tracks, you can't tell someone to sound more like Dizzy than Dizzy. So, I what I had tried to do previously was to get the sound and some of the progressions and chord phrasing that he had from like various bits and pieces of gun songs. And when it came down to actually giving stuff to him, I was like, here are songs with piano on where I told people, please play like you. So my requests is, do whatever the hell you want and I will be happy. And so that was really easy. To be honest with you, I'd like to make that sound more complex, but it's like, you
No,
can't
no.
you can't you can't tell somebody that you've asked people to sound like, to do anything any better than they're going to do it. So that was a real pleasure. That was
Oh,
so
that's
fun.
cool.
Yeah.
You had the original vision of what you wanted to sound like, and then Dizzy just had to be the real Dizzy
Yes.
when
That
it
I mean
came
that
to it.
that
'Cause,
is absolutely
yeah.
literally how it was. Like, I've had conversations with this good friend of mine, Rob Boyce, who's an amazing piano player back in North Carolina, and he knows I'm a big Guns fan. And so when I was writing demos and I would bounce ideas off, of him, I would always say, I need it to sound like Dizzy Reed. So if you can listen to this part of this song, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we've had that conversation. Like, I wanted it to sound like Dizzy. And this was years before I'd made it to, to LA to work with these guys or anything. So it was easy as could be when it came to actually working with him, because it was just, it was fun, because apart from getting to know him and everything else, I was able to listen to these solo tracks, when I'm getting them sent to me and everything else, and listen to them as a fan as well, and just go, well, I can't ask for any more than that. They're perfect. So yeah, that was just a case of just, I had the vision of it sounding like Dizzy Reed, and then it ended up sounding like Dizzy Reed.
It manifested. So
Yeah,
look, before we hit the record button, you and I chatted about different songs and albums and songs kind of being timeless, right? Some songs are just timeless; they're epic.
yeah.
Aside from the sound and the philosophy and process, which is a big part of music, in the age of today, singles, fast streaming, how do you approach your music that in a way that you hope it will stand the test of time? What makes the song a sick existence? Will it stand the test of time?
Um, it will stand the test of time with me. And so from there, my hope obviously is that anybody that listens to it, that's, either into rock music or, whatever else, can hear it and hear something in it that they appreciate, that will keep it from being, I don't want to say at any point dated, because you can say at this point, unfortunately, that any kind of rock music, to an extent, compared to mainstream music, is always going to sound a little bit, less modern. But I think that's also what will keep it from being that way, because it's, if anything, it is a very honest album. There was nothing on there that I did that was like, I have to try and um add this kind of thing in that's in, you know, rock production now, or, you know, anything else. I didn't want to do anything like that. I had put together a band with, you know, guys that I'd grown up wanting to work with. And so all I could do was be as honest with it as I possibly could and make the songs sound how I would want an album to sound. Like nothing about it, not to sound arrogant at all, but it wasn't an album written for anybody else. It was an album that I hope other people like. That's obviously what I want. But it was like this was my chance to put these songs together with guys I'd always wanted to work with, and to end up with an end result that I was going to be happy with. I had to be honest with it and do it to what I wanted it to be. And so hopefully that honesty comes through in the songs, and that will help it stand a test of time for the people that connect to it.
So look, with the song Sick Existence, if you wanted to create a situation where you left fans wanting more, my opinion, I think you've done that. And I, again, before we talked about listening to some albums and some songs, and I told you that there was one particular album that I had on tape and I wore it out 3 times. And the Sick Existence is
Yeah.
one of those songs that I would have on repeat right now, and I would continue playing. And so, as a standalone Signal Flare, it is that. But you started talking about the full length of an album, right? And
Yeah.
is it
Mhm.
the thematic gateway to the full length album? And do we expect in that album then a narrative thread to run through the additional tracks as they connect?
I mean, there's a lot of the album, even though obviously, you know, a lot of personal stories, you know, on explained, you know, publicly. For me, the theme of the album is that I think in most of those songs, it is in some form or fashion my life, like, and my experiences being told through, you know, the songs, because that was I there are things in life that I can't, you know, write about because I haven't had those experiences or whatever else. So this this album is it's an autobiography of sorts that maybe nobody ever knew they wanted, and hopefully they will figure out that they're actually glad it exists once they hear it. But yeah, it's a whole it's the journey of the last like 15 years of my life pretty much is this whole record, except for 2 songs, because yeah, Eric wrote lyrically one of them, and one of them is a cover as well. So I can't say anything about those. But yeah, I think it's the whole theme is just it's a life experience.
So we are going to get that thread. I love it because I love stories on albums. People who listen to me hear me say that all the time. I love when there's interconnectivity. I love when there's stories in between the songs. Um, look at you've given us a lot of breadcrumbs and tidbits to munch on here tonight. Is there something about Agents of Your Demise, the project, that no press release or nothing that you've published in online bios has yet captured? Something that as fans become bigger fans, they would know unless they were in the room with you that you could share with us tonight.
There is, but I can't share it yet. That's the
See,
problem.
I'm putting you on the spot, eh?
There's some things like, for example, for the people that do already know about this, it's that but to watch this. Um, one of the big questions has been, first off, it was, why did it take so damn long? And then, okay, we got the first single in February. Why was there a big break between, you know, February and then the second single being in May? Where is the album? And pauses happen for a reason. So it's all good things that I can't exactly talk about yet. But if nothing else, we can say that I hinted at them today. So you'll eventually will know what I was referring to.
I love
Unfortunately,
it.
that's the best answer I can give right now, I'm afraid.
It's okay. We love cryptic too. It is. How about this?
That's yeah.
What were you guys drinking when you were making the songs? What was on tap?
Honestly, I'm not a big drinker. So
Tea?
Diet Dr. Pepper.
Oh, Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, actually, you know what?
Nice.
Some of them, if I want to sound a bit more rock and roll, some of the songs that was written like in like I started to put together like 2015, 2016, probably a lot of vodka. But um, since then, not so much. So yeah, mostly Diet Dr Pepper, and I'm English, so tea.
I was gonna say Earl Grey. Earl Grey tea.
You know what is drank the same way as well, Gray, but I'm not that highbrow as Tetley, so same gist.
I just peppermint. I'm a peppermint tea guy, but I don't know, whatever.
You see, that's the separation between you being Canadian and the British Empire is that you would only be drinking black tea with milk and sugar. You would do this right,
Oh,
but now that you've said peppermint, we have a disconnect here.
and
So
and tea biscuits.
hey, now let's not trash those.
I'm
That's
not.
good.
At
That's
least
good.
they're not scones. I can't do scones. Sorry, I digress.
No, no, yeah,
Can't do scones.
I haven't seen those things in years, other than when I went back last year. So that's the good thing. You don't really see too many of them in LA or in Vegas. At least not where I go, apparently.
What's okay? How about this? What's in the bottle when you're playing a live song? What's is it water?
It's usually water or Gatorade. Yeah,
Gatorade.
yeah. Because uh, the one time I think I drank too much on stage and played live. Thankfully, I managed to you know hide it pretty well. But this was years and years and years ago, completely off the beaten track. So you'll have to steer me back if I'm going the wrong direction here. But we were playing House of Blues in Cleveland. It was New Year's Eve, and so we had to pause our set when midnight came around so they could do like the countdown and everything. And the the folk like Chris Bourne and all these guys that um worked House of Blues bought us all like bunches and bunches of champagne. And I was never like a huge drinker, especially on the road because I'm working. So I drank and I drank too much from the bottle and drank too much too fast. I was dehydrated and it hit me pretty good. And so this happens. We do like maybe two songs, I think, after the break. At this point, it's hit me pretty nicely. And so it's drum solo time. Then I have to come out for my guitar solo. And so I walk back on, feeling like a badass. Got the bottle of champagne in my hand. I forgot as I got on stage, I'd left my guitar backstage. So I just basically walked a U across the stage so that I looked like I'd done it on purpose and just went screaming backstage, grabbed my guitar, came back out the other side again, and hoped no one figured out what I'd done. So that taught me a good lesson about drinking on stage. So I don't really do that.
There we go. We got a story. We got a rock star story. You didn't fall down a set of stairs, so that's good. That's
No,
good.
no, I no no no. Performance wise, it was great, except for the fact that I did wander around like a lost sheep for one moment.
Lost sheep. Look, man, in terms of fans, you got a website, agentsofyourdemise.com. You're on Facebook.
Yep.
I always ask, what's because social media and with all the content out there, what's the right place, the best place to connect with you? Where are we going to get the right information? Where do you interact with fans? Do you interact with fans? What's the plan there?
Absolutely. The best place in terms of my preference, even though it's slightly less fashionable at the moment, is still Facebook because I can put more information in there along with pictures and everything else. I have my Instagram, Stephen Chesney Music, and my Facebook, which is anything for Agents of Your Demise, is through Stephen Chesney on Facebook. Um, so I tend to do more through Facebook just because I never quite got into thinking that I should take a picture of every single thing that I do and then put it on Instagram. So I feel like I'm doing a disservice to the app, but I do post stuff on there. But yeah, usually if you go to Facebook or stephenchesney.com, agencyofyourdemise.com, and that's going to be the best places to find out what's going on.
Right on. We'll get those in the show notes as well. Look, man,
Thanks, sir.
I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a true honor chatting with you before and during the show itself, as you shared your journey and so many of your stories. Is there anything that you'd like to leave us with before we close out the show?
To everybody that has supported me through this whole thing,
Mm.
they're amazing. And to everybody that's going to hear it, I hope you can hear. Um, I hope you can hear what I wanted to put across to everybody, like for everybody to hear with this. And that might sound vague, but that's probably the best answer I can give. Is that I hope everybody can get some kind of connection to something in this stuff, and if you can, then I did my job.
Showing us his My Life, that is Stephen Chesney, musician, producer, and creative force behind Agents of Your Demise. If Sick Existence is just the beginning, then we're in for something bold, unfiltered, refreshingly honest in what's to come. So keep an eye out for the full album. Dive deeper at agentsofyourdemise.com. Stephen, thank you so much for pulling back the curtain on this project, sharing the spark behind the sound. And to everyone listening, remember, behind every powerful track is someone who risked making something real. I'll have all the socials in the show notes. We'll be playing Sick Existence on thepathradio.com. So turn it up. Thanks again, Stephen. Give my gratitude to the band, please. And I hope that you'll join us again.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.